So the first question is, it's a bit random, but what do you think of vegans?
As one,
Are you
I
a vegan?
like them. I think there's definitely a stereotype,
Yeah.
and I don't always think it's a very attractive stereotype. And even like myself, when I thought like if it comes up in conversation, because you know it's always those things that they're like,
Yeah,
I'm a
it's
medical
awkward.
student, I'm a vegan,
Yeah, yeah.
and you go like I'm a vegan, and then people go like,
So what do you need from animals to survive that you can't get from a vegan diet?
I don't know what a vegan diet is.
Just with nothing from an animal.
Food, burgers.
I'm Giuseppe Federici. I'm a final year business student with French at the University of Manchester, and that's just one part of my life. There's a lot of reasons why anyone could be vegan. So I was about 18, 19, it was my first year of university. So the first half I was like completely like non-vegan, and then throughout the second half of my first year, that's when I started to make the change. My dad was diagnosed with colon cancer, and I was like, shit, like maybe like reevaluate like my health, because I thought we were all a healthy family. And we've always eaten like homemade meals, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, and I thought that having like meat like every day was healthy. So the World Health Organization, which is the largest organization of health in the world, the WHO, they came out with a report in 2016 which said that processed meats such as bacon, ham, salami and sausages are a class 1 carcinogen, which is the same class as cigarettes and asbestos, which means that it definitely increases your risk of developing cancer, specifically colon cancer. As I did a lot of research and did more research into like the causes of such illnesses, I realised that like colon cancer is largely like caused by processed meats. Luckily, like even though it was stage 4 cancer, which is like quite far down the line in terms of like how dangerous it is, luckily as soon as we realised this, we cut out the processed meats, the red meats, and then eventually like all meats, and then eventually to a plant-based diet. And from my point of view, he was probably the one that needed to benefit from it the most. Do you know what I mean?
Although he was on the treadmill exercising every other
Yeah, like
day.
he was always trying
was
to do
always,
something,
you know,
to like
fit.
improve his health, but like he wouldn't give up the processed meat, would
Oh
he,
no,
for a
no,
while?
because we didn't make that connection. We didn't think that
Yeah.
it was our diet. We thought we were healthy.
And like
know?
I remember going through phases when I was literally saying to you like, processed meat is what caused it, and he still doesn't know, and he's still having bacon. He like texts us and he's saying, "Oh, my bacon craving is finally wearing off."
I think
And I
because
was
the
like,
bacon
"Oh,
was the
thank
last
God."
thing he sort of cut down. It took him a few, but
Yeah.
that was his last initial thing to cut out. But
My dad actually refused chemotherapy twice, so he was diagnosed, and then he was put on like a weekly. He had to have it every week, every Thursday, I think it was, and then I think he lasted about 3 sessions out of like the 20, and he was like, "No, I'm not doing this." And then a few months later as well, he tried it a different way, like once a month, and it was still like unbearable. So it just makes you realise like he genuinely, obviously we don't know how he felt at the time, but he genuinely thought that if he was carried on with that, he was going to die. Like I remember saying that, I was like, but Dad, you need it. Like it's the treatment. Like you need it. And at the time, like there was times where we hated him because he didn't want this treatment that was supposed to save his life. But luckily, like thank God, like it's turned out he actually made the right decision by refusing to have it and essentially just changing his lifestyle. I'm not going to say like veganism cured his cancer, because that you never know for sure. But we could have just been really lucky, but it was stage 4 cancer, and yeah, I'm just thankful for where we are today.
Now he's fine. He's been vegan for like 2.5 years, whatever, and he's never felt better. He's like over 50 and he feels better than he did when he was like 40. Yeah, I definitely don't think there's any sign of him going back to eating meat.
I'm sports ambassador for Veganuary. I was last year as well, which at 62 years of age is quite, you know, it's quite a compliment. I go to events and do demonstrations of physical fitness, physical strength, balance skills, which at 60, well, I keep on going on about my age, getting really old. At this sort of age, nobody's doing this, nobody's doing it. And the myth is that vegans are really weak and shriveled and haven't got a decent body. No, they're pale and ill. I'm trying to demonstrate that it's a load of rubbish. It's quite the opposite. I grew up vegan, eating plant-based foods, and because of that, I did feel different from everybody else, but I wasn't particularly bothered because I was at primary school. Everyone went into the hall and ate lunch, which made me sick, just even to smell it. I went into the cloakroom and ate my fruit and veg or whatever that my mother put in a little box for me. So I've always been up here, even as a child, I've been different. I started training when I was 13 years of age. I've got an imagination. I used to be a writer, still am really, but I used to write for TV. I've got quite a good imagination because I was brought up as an only child, and you live in your head as an only child. So I started using my creative powers on the exercises in the gym. The more I do on the suspension training, the more I love it, because almost every week we're inventing a new exercise, a new way of doing things. I've got a YouTube channel now with about 250 videos on, and the more I did of that, the more I realised how silly the conventional weight training is. I was 50 years of age before I met my first other vegan. I was 50, 2006, and I was beginning to think I was on the wrong planet. And then, come about 2010, 2012, on Facebook, social media, suddenly you're seeing groups, vegan groups, 120, 130,000 people. And I think, whoa, this is getting really good. I'm not different after all.
The vegan movement has exploded. When I first went vegan 6.5 years ago, 7 years ago, there was just, I didn't really know anyone, and nobody was talking about it. It wasn't on the news, it wasn't in the media at all. And as my friend Kerry MacArthur says, the only thing on the internet was like a cry for help more than anything else. Now it's everywhere. You know, every restaurant's got a vegan menu, every chain is doing vegan food, all the supermarkets have got vegan sections. There are thousands of vegan products and plant-based products kind of like appearing everywhere.
Plant-based recipes. Today we're doing one of my favorites, our wicked vegan nacho mac and cheese.
So back in 2015, Plant-Based News started as a YouTube channel, and my good friend Klaus Mitchell, he's the one who came up with the idea of Plant-Based News as a kind of entity, as a news platform. But it was just a YouTube channel to begin with. Hi everyone, Robbie here from Plant-Based News. We're super excited to introduce you to Alison Argo. Alison is the director of The Last Pig, which is a brilliant film that came out recently. And it kind of what it did was it brought together lots of people from all over the world who would read the news and kind of tell the story of new products or laws or animal rights or all kinds of different things. I want people to come to Plant-Based News and see Plant-Based News as an authority on these topics, so that they feel secure in their decisions, so that they feel sure about what they're doing when it comes to what they eat, where they buy, where they shop, and what they feed their children. And when people have that certainty and that security, then they'll keep making those positive and ethical choices. So the media loves to portray vegans as villains or the enemies in our society. Isn't that such a backwards way of thinking? You know, we're people who want to see a kinder, more compassionate world, yet we are being told that we're militant, that we're kind of aggressive, that we're forcing our beliefs down the throats of other people.
If people want to do this, get on with it quietly, do whatever you want to do.
And arguments against veganism flooded the mainstream.
Go back to the time of the caveman, for God's sake, it's nature.
Do you understand what happens in jungles?
We've developed, we've grown canine teeth.
Where?
Canine
Show me
teeth.
yours.
Environmentalist groups, veganism, they're all able to exist now in 2018 because of the meat eaters of the past who built this amazing civilization that allows unfocused adults to chase their fringe causes.
What do you mean it's not a thing? People eat meat just stupid. Not eat meat, they're just stupid. It's not a real thing.
And you say that people who are on vegan diets are malnourished, and people who are malnourished are more likely to commit crimes.
Presumably you're not going out and collecting your own nuts and seeds and plants, are you?
No, and so
Who's killing those plants?
You have every right to be a vegan, as I have every right to be a meat eater. And you can do that. But please don't thrust the message down everyone's throats that we all have to change to veganism.
Now, people like Piers Morgan, he is a clown. He's kind of like a puppet to the media of that sort, because he wants to focus on controversy. He wants to get people talking about vegans. He's been talking about vegans non-stop for the last 12 weeks. He's always bringing it up on his morning show because he enjoys that controversy. I think he's pretty harmless, but at the same time, his rhetoric is damaging because it's always trying to create fear around what we're doing, when what we're doing is actually very positive.
I mean, they stink, right,
No,
for one.
they're delicious.
Right?
They're delicious, actually.
Because they've got the same seasoning.
Ooh, God.
I like them. They've got nice crisp pastry.
Yeah.
The vegetarian sausage is nicely flavoured.
That's a good look, Piers.
Oh, my God.
I would eat
Why would
that.
anyone eat this?
So when a large celebrity starts to talk about veganism, they are influencing millions of people. People like Miley Cyrus, you know, she's often talking about veganism, animal rights, being kinder to animals, not wearing fur, and she's unashamed about it. She's really, really kind of focused on being clear and direct.
For me, I want to bring a message, which is veganism and that there doesn't have to be torture in fabulous fashion.
But a lot of celebrities want to hide their veganism and they don't want to talk about it. I think celebrities who are vegan have a moral obligation to talk about it and to focus on it and to not be ashamed of it, because we need to normalize it. We need to make sure that everyone sees the word vegan and thinks about what it means and how they could potentially get involved with it.
My name's Eva Giraud and I'm a lecturer in media at Keele. And I do quite a lot of research about vegan politics and how veganism is represented in the media, because it's something that I'm just really interested in. Veganism is represented in the media in quite problematic ways normally. So on the one hand, you've got all these really large-scale campaigning groups like PETA, who I think a lot of vegans would see as quite problematic for being slightly over the top with their representations and for using quite sexist imagery.
I feel like that kind of violent kind of piece of footage does need to be encapsulated in something else. It needs to be wrapped up in some kind of narrative or some kind of voiceover that guides a person in and then kind of warns them of what they're about to see. Because I think when you kind of shock people, or you slam this kind of stuff into people, they do kind of turn away from it. And I think you're going to turn less people you're going to bring less people to the movement if you do it in that way. But I think, you know, these videos where you see this kind of violence on Facebook and on social media, they get millions and millions of views and thousands of shares. So people do engage with them, and it can work.
You know, a lot of these commentators argue, well, it's impossible to be totally vegan, and, you know, these people are being ridiculous and extreme, etc. There've obviously been high-profile figures such as Piers Morgan, you know, being very critical about Greggs having this kind of vegan sausage roll and seeing it as really excessive and, you know, a company changing itself for this kind of moralistic group of people and, you know, getting very angry about that. They do these gotcha moments where they think that they've caught you out in your hypocrisy. So sometimes it's been quite jokey. Like I can remember when I was a student being at a party and people coming up with all these scenarios, like, would you still be vegan if this? And it was stuff like, oh, if a cat in your neighbourhood died of natural causes, would it still be vegan to wear it as a hat? And things like that were obviously kind of silly. But then you get much more kind of serious equivalents of that, where people genuinely want to argue with you about it.
Not everyone is at the same place you are. Not everyone is going to go vegan after one conversation or one film. Some people are going to take a little bit of time. So it's really important to choose your message very carefully and to be patient with people.
So anybody who actually makes an effort, who's aware, once you get the awareness, it's like a little seed that you're planting in somebody's head, and it will grow.
My own dad, who I never, for a million years, never thought that he would ever go vegan. He's 60, he's really set in his ways. He did veganuary last year and ended up being vegan. And I was like, what the hell? Trump got into power, Brexit happened, my dad went vegan. I was completely blown away by it. You know, and if my dad can go vegan, anyone can do it.
Clearly, some people will try it because it's fashionable, won't stay vegan. But I think it's sort of slowly moving towards the mainstream, and particularly with things like climate change, I think that's been a big driver for encouraging people to sort of give up or at least cut down on the consumption of animal products. What I wouldn't want to happen is for it to just be seen as a fashion choice and for it to kind of lose its connection with other political kind of issues.
I would definitely say there's a stereotype that vegans are like pushy, loud, outspoken, and like to say like when they meet someone new, like, hi, I'm vegan. But that's definitely not the case. And like, for example, in the last few weeks, I've actually found that when I meet someone new, if there's a friend that knows I'm vegan already, they would like to just like say and like take the mick like, oh, he's vegan, which is like sometimes inappropriate, sometimes it's a joke, whatever. But I definitely wouldn't say that it's like, obviously it's a big part of my life and how I view the world, but I only like to speak about it when it's necessary and when it's appropriate.
Best thing about being vegan is a lot of people think like vegans think they're superior, but the whole point is like that's the whole reason we're vegan, because we don't think we're superior to animals. Like we think we're like, I wouldn't say we're equal, because a lot of people think that vegans equate humans and animals, and that's not what we're doing. We're just saying we respect animals enough not to harm them. So I think one of the best things about being vegan is just knowing that my morals are aligned with my actions.
And it is a big part of my identity. It's my entire life. Like I work as a professional vegan. That's what I do. I teach people how to be vegan, or I encourage people to be more vegan. That's really my whole kind of MO, really. But that's not for everyone. Like, not everyone's going to base their whole lives around the movement. My job is the movement. My job is to try and encourage more people to join the conversation. I'm vegan, but I'm also Buddhist as well, you know, but I don't let those things define me completely.
So much more about me. Like, I'm a student, I like photography, I like music, I like studying languages and business and traveling and things like that. So there's so much more things about me. Like, that's just one part of my life. Everyone's on their own journey, we're all human, and some people don't see things the same way that you do, and some people don't. Some people take longer to see something than you might do.
I could pick on anybody and say, well, you're different because you do this and nobody else does that, or you think like that. I don't mind being different. We're all different. It's not a big deal. It's being different as a vegan is not a big deal at all.
Last week, even someone said to me, oh, you don't look like a vegan. It's like, well, what the hell does a vegan look like? Like, I'm a human and I have a vegan diet. Like, you can get vegans come in so many different shapes and sizes and colours and religions, and it's a lot. It's interesting because like, a lot of people say, oh, vegans like push their ideology and they want to change people so much, but we're not asking you to change like who you are. We're not asking you to change your religion or your beliefs. We're just asking you to align your morals with your actions, which is against animal cruelty and basically trying to be healthy.
I used to hate vegans a lot. I
used to hate vegans, yeah. I used to hate vegans, yeah, before I was one. Used to think that they were hippies, yeah, I thought they were dumb. Then I did a bit of research and it opened my eyes. So I wrote the song to hope one day that you realise what we're doing to our planet, yeah, it just isn't right. So we gotta come together, gotta put up a fight. I used to hate vegans, yeah. There's children going hungry while we fatten up cows. Watch everything's conspiracy, go on, have a browse. They say that we need meat for iron, protein and that, but there's things are in plants, minus a saturated fat. We need dairy for calcium, it's all just a lie. That shit only exists because of demand and supply. They forcibly impregnate cows, but you can watch a tape. If it wasn't to a woman, you'd call it rape. Then they steal the calves and milk, and if it is bull male, they get killed as they come in milk, and then it's sold for veal. They say, but what's the harm in eggs? Well, let me tell you this, it's a chicken period. You're still gonna dismiss the fact that what we eat these days causes so much harm. Come and tell me it's okay after you visit